Hi everybody, and welcome to the next instalment of my video chats. If you've seen the previous one, you'll know that I'm speaking to lots of different people from different backgrounds in different industries with different skills to offer to share with us their views on how to create a great place to work, something which you all know I'm really passionate about. So today I'm delighted to be joined by David Mellard. David is the founder of Bedrock HR, and David believes that every employer should create a great place to work. So David, would you be able to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, so as you say, I'm David Mellard. I've founded Bedrock HR in 2014, and we work with a number of smallish organisations across professional services, scale-ups, and charities, schools. Most sectors of the economy, really. We provide I guess, two typical services, really. One is HR advice. So this is where we team up quite often with people like yourself, Charlotte, and others, and that tends to be advice that's pragmatic and aware of risk rather than totally risk averse and avoiding any confrontation at all costs. We tend to take the commercial aspects of the organisations we work with very seriously when giving HR advice. The other thing for some of our clients is that we provide a full HR service on administration in the same way as an HR department would for recruitment and other HR activities. So the whole life cycle from recruitment through to, sadly, the last year or so, quite often ending employment.
That's great. Thank you for that, David. So, I mean, obviously you work with lots of businesses in many different sectors. I know you're passionate about helping businesses create great places to work, and that will look different for lots of different businesses. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So what do you think creates a great place to work?
Well, I mean, I've worked with some clients that really pride themselves on being somewhere that attracts and retains good people. And we've been able to take some learnings from clients that do this really well and apply them in other settings. And that's something I'm really excited about. So I think, work is part of life. Work isn't the whole of life. And there are days where we just want to be on holiday, and there are times when we just want to stay under the duvet. But a great place to work is a place where a lot of the time you're happy to get up and go to work. And the kinds of things that will make somewhere great, the characteristics, I think, include a sense of belonging, people feeling that if they're not there, they're going to be missed. They are valued. They understand that they have a place in that organisation. They understand their work. They understand what they do. They understand what they've been employed to do. They understand what they don't have to do. And so that sense of being part of something bigger than themselves is really important. Alignment with values and the purpose of the organisation. I think in one or two of my first jobs, my earlier jobs, I'd been in the organisation for some time before I really realised what it did and what it stood for. And I think from day one, there's an opportunity to align people. In fact, before day one, at the point where you're advertising a role or you're using an agency to fill a role, make sure that that advert or that agency are really clear about not just the mechanics of what you do, but what you stand for and why you do what you do. That's really important. Relationships with managers and colleagues that are respectful and energetic and engaging is so important. It's often said that people join a job or join a company, join an organisation, that they leave a manager. So make sure that the way in which people are managed, the relationships are good, and that there are systems and training in place so that the managers in that organisation are all speaking the language of the organisation and living authentically within it. I think that's important. An opportunity to use your skills and knowledge, really important. Particularly, the surveys show that the generation who are entering the workplace now, and probably the previous two generations as well, want to feel that they're developing. It's higher in some people's priority list than the amount of money they're paid. And I think if you look at the sort of top 100 places to work, they're not always the best payers, but what they have is a culture that people really want to be part of. And those people act as additional salespeople for their organizations, because they tell everyone else it's a great place to work. So you want fans amongst your employees as well. I think fairness and transparency are so important. If you feel that somebody is being discriminated against because of their gender, race, or something else, that's going to be a demotivator for you in terms of that workplace. But equally, if you feel that somebody is getting away with murder, not being pulled up when they're performing badly, people don't like that either. So fairness and transparency are really important. And I think although money isn't everything, a sense that you're being appropriately rewarded adds to a great place to work. So that's not exhaustive, but they're just some of my thoughts.
They're really interesting thoughts, actually, David. I could chat to you about all of them for hours, but I'm pretty sure people don't want to hear us going on for that long.
Oh, I might do.
Maybe. Maybe we should take a topic a week.
Perhaps.
I think one of the things that's come across very clear there is that really this has to come from the top. The people that are in managerial positions or leadership positions are responsible for properly managing their team, making sure that their employees know what's expected of them, what's not expected of them, and really looking after their well-being. Now, I was looking at the latest labour force survey the other day for a piece of work I was doing for a client. And one of the number one reasons that employees feel stressed is workload. And the second one is poor management. And as you said just then, people leave, they don't leave companies, they leave managers. So on the basis that poor management and poor workload management can cause a lot of work-related stress, how do you think businesses can improve the employee well-being to help, foster and, promote this great place to work?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this a lot, and obviously over the last year, there are two real challenges to well-being. One is a sense of, will my job still be there when the coronavirus pandemic has decreased or is over? And the second is working in a new environment, quite often at home. I'm fortunate enough to have a workspace that I enjoy being in my home. But if I was working at home when I was in my 20s and 30s in a shared flat with maybe a lot of pressure on the internet connection and a bedroom and a common shared area, I might not be feeling the same. So I think employers need to make decisions around where people work according to the circumstances people are in, if they're not allowed to come into an office. But I think just the specifics around well-being, I think creating an opportunity for people to talk about their struggles and to actively listen to them has got to be number one. And as Bedrock, we have undertaken a number of surveys for our clients where it's been useful to have a sort of triangulation or an external so that people feel they can open up with a degree of confidentiality rather than speaking to a line manager who they may not feel comfortable speaking with. But having that space, however you create it, having that space to be heard is critical. And the other thing, I think it's not always possible, but if employers can demonstrate a degree of security for people, so whether that's a sense that their job is going to last, whether that's a sense of their prospects, the potential for advancement, training, development are still there and haven't gone away, or whether it's just a transparency about decision making, these things can really help to take away that that anxiety of not knowing that is a big part of a lack of good well-being.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And I think anecdotally, what I've found is when employees don't feel secure, they become very, very demotivated. And what do you think employers can do to help their employees stay keen and motivated, especially during difficult times like we're experiencing at the moment?
Yeah. So again, I've done a lot of thinking about this in terms of advising clients and trying to just make the best of the current situation. I think regular contact, formal and informal, is important. I mean, there's a sort of a phrase that we didn't use a year ago called being zoomed out. And so, expecting all employees to spend every Friday night on a workplace quiz is probably not the answer, but there might be something there in terms of keeping people connected. People are being very imaginative in the way in which they're staying in touch at the moment. There is a misconception, I alluded to it earlier, that financial rewards are the route towards motivation. But I think whilst people do want to feel that they're appropriately rewarded, the difficulty with just relying on financial rewards is that you have to just keep increasing them, keep topping them up. But there's never a point where people will sit for very long, for more than a few months, without feeling, oh, I could perhaps do with a little bit more. So financial rewards have their place, of course they do, but I think there are some other overlooked ways of motivating people. I think people want to have that sense of belonging. They want to feel that their opinions count for something, they're being listened to. They want to feel that there's a clear career route. I think it's very difficult in an era of flat structures. When I started work, there were just, if you open the post on a Wednesday as well as a Thursday, then you might get a small promotion. Well, you don't have that degree of very small steps of promotion anymore. Most organizations are fairly flat. So knowing that you're advancing in your career is harder to judge. So I think employers can be giving this message that actually, yes, these are the skills we want you to have. We recognize you've got this. We celebrate that you've got this new skill. We celebrate that this is the route that's now open to you. Just having that constant dialogue. It's a commonly felt issue amongst managers now, that particularly people entering the first phases of their career now really want a lot of feedback. Feedback is motivational. I used to, when I was younger, I used to dread having performance appraisals, but actually over the last few years that I was working for other people, I used to actively look forward to those performance appraisals, because that was the time when I had airtime with my bosses to find out how I was doing. So I think, making sure that people get that feedback regularly, and it's honest, and it can be honest, and it can be hurtful at times, but people do want to know how they're doing. There shouldn't be surprises. I think the other thing is, additional leave, flexibility of working hours, ability to incorporate non-work activities during the working day, if that's possible. These are all quite important motivators.
Thanks, David. And I think that last point you made about the hybrid working and just looking at work differently, I'm hoping that that is going to be changing now because of the pandemic. It's shown people and businesses that work can be different. It doesn't have to be 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and people have got used to having a bit more flexibility, albeit we're locked down, so there's not much we can go out and do in our personal lives. We have that time to fit in a run or a workout, or just spending some more time with your family rather than having to sit on a crowded central line train or something. So I'm hoping that that's going to change anyway. The point that you made about feedback, I think, is absolutely often overlooked. I was writing some training for a client earlier this week, actually, for their managers, to help their managers be able to deal with these difficult situations. If there's performance management issues, if there's grievances, and actually doing the continual feedback on performance rather than just waiting for appraisal time. And managers tend to shy away from this because it can be difficult to give certain feedback. But I think you're right as well, with the younger generation coming into the workforce, they've got really different expectations. Certainly when I think back to when I was younger, like you, I dreaded appraisals and I just wanted to get it over and done with. I wanted my manager to not tell me off too much, and that was it. Whereas now, like you, I to some extent look forward to them because I can set goals and talk about where I'm doing well, where I'm perhaps not doing so well. But the younger generation do seem to want a lot more feedback. And I think that's something that managers are really going to have to get to grips with to keep everybody happy and to have this great place to work. I think that also ties in with the business values. So you mentioned that right at the beginning of our conversation, how important that is. I mean, how do you think that businesses or managers can help new employees or the younger employees really understand what your business is and what those values are and how important they are?
Yeah, so I think the recruitment process is important, making sure that in whatever way possible, whether it's your website or videos or the message that's given during the recruitment interview process, alluding to the culture, speaking about the values, really important. I think induction has a lot of organizations just want to get somebody through the door and get them working as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible. And of course, there are circumstances where a business is up against it and you just need all hands to the pump. I understand that. But I've noticed that some great appointments that have felt great during the recruitment process quickly lead to sort of doubts and concerns, a few weeks in, because there hasn't been that proper induction into the organisation. And equally, appointments that you've thought, well, not sure, but we'll take a chance, we'll take a punt, have actually been really good as a result of people feeling like that they know what they're doing and know where they are and know where they sit very quickly from day one. So I think if you can get recruitment really, really right and then induction really right, you're off to a good flyer. In terms of understanding the culture, I think also making sure that more people than the immediate team, it depends on the size of the organisation. If you've got 8 people in the organisation, there's not really any reason why everybody can't have a conversation with the new person. I think trying to have, some people call it trial by knife and fork, but actually when somebody joins, having a lunch celebrating that they've joined, or nowadays it might be a Zoom call, but just trying to introduce the person, but also give them insights, tell stories of things that have gone well in the business, share podcasts that maybe have been produced over time, just sort of soak people in the culture. And I think this is where a conversation with the chief executive or the departmental head, the founder, anyone who is the embodiment of the culture of the organisation with that new starter, it has got to be a good thing.
That's a fantastic idea, and certainly in my career today, I've never experienced a total immersion like how you've just explained it, and I think that's a really, really nice idea, actually. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for your time anyway. I mean, you've shared some really, really useful and interesting insights, which I'm sure everyone will love hearing about. So I've got my final question for you. It's a question I'm asking everybody because I'm a total geek and I love to read and I love to learn. What's the best book you've read in the last year or so?
So the autobiography of Arsene Wenger, who was the long-time Arsenal Football Club manager, 20 years plus. I really enjoyed reading it because it wasn't a typical footballer type story about lavish nights out or great celebrations. It was actually a quiet, insightful glimpse at his methods, the psychology that he used, the discipline regimes, the diets. I mean, when he came to the Premier League, most players would have a big fry up, a couple of hours before a game and a few pints afterwards. But Wenger dissected every single bit of the player's life and their engagement. And I thought these are lessons that are applicable to any business environment, really. I'm sure that I'm not encouraging people, organisations that predominantly have people sitting behind desks to insist on certain diets. I think I wouldn't really be employed by anyone if that came in. But I think just looking at what's appropriate for the organisation and just supporting people to be in the best circumstances that they can be in to do their job effectively is the lesson that I've taken from that book. So, Charlotte, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation and very open to being contacted by anybody who feels that they want to discuss their circumstances further.
That's great. Thank you so much, David. Like you, I've really enjoyed our conversation and I've learned a lot, and hopefully everybody watching and listening will feel the same. But for now, I'll say goodbye to everybody, and I'll be putting David's contact details along with the video. So thank you, David, and goodbye, everyone.